Hello, welcome to this brief lecture on a very important topic, Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica is a diverse but similar culture to modern-day Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, El Salvador, Nicaragua, y Costa Rica. Now, it doesn't include all parts of these countries, but much of their territories. When you look at the map on the next page or on the top right corner, you'll see Tijuana isn't included, and much of northern Mexico isn't either, because that culture wasn't similar enough to the aforementioned groups. So, essentially, Mesoamerica is a time and place in much of Mexico and Central America before Europeans arrived. Although humans have been in the Americas for about 30,000 years, in Mexico about 15,000 years, and probably longer, Mesoamerica is a time of high societies and great cultures. Roughly from the time of the Olmecs around 1500 BCE to the Mexica of 1325 to 1521. The term Mesoamerica stems from the Greek word meso, not menso, meso, which means middle. Therefore, Mesoamerica can be translated as Middle America. The term was developed by Mexican-German anthropologist Paul Kirchhoff in 1943, when he realized what we now know as common knowledge. The amazing groups such as the Olmecs, Maya, and the Mexica, and many others, had similar cultures. Even more important, Mesoamerica was one of the most advanced societies in the world. Mesoamerica is one of 7 primary urban generation centers. That is, in the history of humans who have been on Earth for 2.5 to 4 million years, only 7 places in the world made the transition from villagers, hunter-gatherers, to urban, organized cities. David Carrasco shows us these 7 places are northern China, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, southwestern Nigeria, and 2 in the Americas. 1 in South America created by Andean people, and Mesoamerica, beginning in what is today Mexico. Ancient Mexicans and Mesoamericans were only 1 in 7 groups able to make that important transition without any outside assistance. And that's it. Not the Greeks, not the Romans, not Europe, none of them. Although they were great civilizations in their own right, they borrowed many elements from their known world. America is separated by 2 oceans, and Native Mexicans figured things out by themselves. And if I can use the Fubu Company title, America was created for us, by us, without outside aid. Mesoamericans created some of the most amazing cultures in the world without any assistance. Ancient Americans figured it out by themselves, and in many scientific fields were more advanced than the old world, which had a head start of hundreds of thousands of years. So how did people first populate the Americas? Well, this question is one of the most hotly contested and still debated, with new research seemingly every month. But essentially, humans first arrived in the Americas about 15,000 to 30,000 years ago, probably longer. Through a combination of walking and waterway transportation, the first Americans migrated through the Bering Straits, that huge landmass that connected Eastern Asia to North America, i.e., it connected contemporary Eastern Russia, Mongolia to the Bering Strait, to near modern-day Alaska. Before the end of the Ice Age melted some 11,000 years ago and sea levels rose, this land bridge was exposed, so it was easily accessible. Scientists also call this area Beringia. In a nutshell, who are ancient Mexicans? Ancient Mexicans arrived from Asia, in a genetic sense, from Eastern Asia, East modern-day Russia, perhaps the Ainu of northern Japan, but Americans arrived from Asia, then created distinct and unique cultures that rivaled and sometimes surpassed the ancient world. So if you believe in the science of human ancestry, we began in Mama Africa 2.5 to 4 million years ago. Then only about 70 to 100,000 years ago, maybe 200,000 years ago, our ancestry left out of Africa. Probably as Homo erectus, which actually is my high school nickname. But anyways, they probably left as Homo erectus and as hominoids, other hominoids. The migrations began over the Middle East and over Asia and over the Bering Straits and headed towards Alaska and Canada, and then finally into the Americas and then into Mexico, creating these amazing cultures that were studied throughout this semester. Now, lots of evidence ensures a Bering Strait migration, but small migrations likely came in other forms, including some sort of pan-Pacific voyage. Nevertheless, Eastern Asia is the largest launching pad for first Americans, and DNA evidence suggests that the first Americans have these Polynesian and Japanese origins. According to University of College London genetics professor Andres Ruiz, most Asians probably arrived within the first of three large waves. So the first wave. Professor Ruiz tracked 300,000 DNA sequence variations from about 52 Native American and 17 Siberian groups. That's hard evidence. That's Jerry Springer evidence. It's pretty convincing and difficult to explain away. So what does that mean? Using DNA, all Native Americans throughout all the Americas, and yes, Mexicans are Native Americans. All natives can trace their basal genome to the Bering Strait of Beringia. According to Ruiz and Danish geneticist Eske Viljerslev, as seen in the Nova 2018 documentary First Face of America. I'll say it again. All Americans can trace their basal genome to the Bering Strait as the first people to ever set foot in the Americas. All natives can trace their origin to people who resided in the Bering Strait area or Beringia some 25 to 30,000 years ago, i.e. they were only in this Beringia area right there. They did not domesticate the rest of the Americas or Mexico till some 15,000 years ago. So these Asians migrated to the Bering, each bringing their own genetic codes, profiles, and phenotypes, and after generations of knocking boots, and they produced a new group of people, Native Americans. Nowhere else in the world is there Native American DNA. It can only be found here in America. The first people are indeed truly native to this land. No humans ever set foot in the Americas, and it was new native genome that traversed and settled the newly discovered Americans. A new DNA genome for a new continent. Let me make one small clarification. No other groups ever set foot and then settled in the Americas before. These are the first Americans. So when we return back to our gorgeous Chippewa, our Canadian mother and child, we can still see today up to 90% of the Chippewa Canada DNA can be traced back to this first wave. 90%, up to 90%. To this one specific Chippewan group that resides in contemporary Canadian region. I'm not a math major, but 90% is a pretty significant number. Her phenotype also renders evidence of genetic ancestors. You see familiar features in Asians and Native Americans, In this case, Chippewa, and I hate to use the word Eskimo, but it's a term you might be more familiar with. This young contemporary Mayan shows similar phenotypical features from our ancestors, as does this 3,000-year-old Olmec jade mask. And I know I just showed you genetic and phenotypical similarities over thousands of years, but be careful. It's clear Asians are the first Americans, but phenotype is a somewhat new phenomenon, with changes in phenotypes occurring more contemporary as opposed to the 2.5 to 4 million years humans have been on Earth. And how many people were in the Americas before 1492? Who the heck knows? That number is even more hotly debated than how and when people first populated the Americas. But let's start with Donovan's contemporary 57.3 million assertion. Today, there's about 112 million is a modern espoused by modern scholars. But whether it's 57 million or 112 million, it's somewhere probably within there, probably closer to the 100 million range. No matter what, it is clear that the majority of Americans are Mexicans, where numbers stand at 20 to 25 million. And the obvious question is, what the hell is going on in Mexico? Why are a quarter or 50% of all Americans living in Mexico? How are ancient Mexicans able to sustain populations of more than 20 million? Well, the answer is that Mexicans were some of the greatest scientists, architects, or horticulturalists in the world. They were extremely efficient and acclaimed people. They bathed every day where Europeans only bathed maybe once or twice a year. These Native Americans created some of the greatest civilizations on Earth. And modern scientists have divided these groups into 3 time frames: pre-classic, classic, and post-classic. Wow, what exciting names these scientists created for them. Within those time frames, the Olmecs, the Mayans, and the Mexicas are the groups that we're going to be covering this semester. The last and the most famous group, the Mexicas, we'll probably spend most time on. Mesoamericans, they invented corn. They harvested cacao, which you know today as chocolate. They harvested vanilla. They built the largest pyramids in the world. They invented the world's oldest team sport. They manufactured rubber 3,000 years before it was quote-unquote invented in the United States. They built aqueducts and many, many, many more contributions that are still impacting the world today. So if I can talk to my students for a second, let me talk to you. And yes, I mean you. You are American. Your DNA was born here. You were literally born for this place and of this place. You are home. You are America. You are great. You are scientists. You are doctors, engineers. It is literally in your DNA. You can do it. You've already done it. It's time to do it again. Study your ancestors in Mesoamerica and be your best. You are capable of great things. So I want to thank you for watching. Stay safe. Please wash your hands. Stop touching your face. Thanks for watching. Do the readings. Peace.